Among the things you said that I want to press on is what you mentioned around teachers struggle to know what to do with the information once they have it. So say they have a method of kind of sizing up where kids are on a continuum in a given area of development. What do we want them to do
Right.
with that
Exactly.
insight if they have a sense in terms of a classroom of where kids are on a continuum?
Right. Well, first of all, I think that one of the pieces, you made an assumption there, that teachers have been given information about a continuum to begin with, or a learning trajectory. For example, in mathematics, it's a learning trajectory. In language or in social emotional areas, it's a developmental continuum. And we don't necessarily provide those tools for teachers to understand what the continuum is, so that they can figure out, so they understand where children we should predict that they could be, and what are the next steps, so that we could, if we don't know what you want to scaffold children toward, then you can't begin to figure out how to scaffold them. And I think that's a big piece that we have fallen down on. One of the good things is that in the last decade, we've seen a significant improvement in the availability of those kinds of tools, where people are given, the way I look at those tools is that they are scaffolds for teachers. When we provide teachers with the developmental continuum, with the learning trajectories, then they have a scaffold that they can refer to in thinking about where children should be. That piece of how you help children to go to the next step in the continuum is the piece that our field is really weakest on, and that's curriculum. We tend to spend a lot of time, and I'm sure that to a large extent the early childhood specialists encounter this because this is so much of their job. Big piece of their job is early learning standards. And then a big piece of their job now is assessment and dealing with all the complex issues in assessment. And this is what's happening in lots of programs all over the country. But there's a big void in between, which is how do you get from point A to point B. So what happens is, or point C actually. So what happens is the assessment becomes the curriculum. People say, when you say, well, what do you plan to do? Well, we're preparing the kids for work sampling, or preparing the kids for GOLD, or for child observation record core. In some ways, the preparation, the assessment is driving everything. When you want to look at your learning standards and you want to figure out what's the curriculum that's going to help us get the children to those outcomes that we're going to actually assess, and then there's a cycle of assessment and curriculum and teaching. And too often, the curriculum and teaching piece is left out of that cycle. So we really need to do a lot more that is focused and targeted on the issue of curriculum, and our field is very resistant to it because we have this very strong tradition of emergent curriculum where the assumption is that, teachers can plan on their own and it comes out fully out of the interests of the children, and it's very project-based, and all that's very good, except to do that sufficiently well that children will actually meet the early learning standards means a really, really highly qualified teacher is required.